Today I'm going to talk about something as best I can. It's difficult, and I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers because it's also beyond our understanding to a certain extent. So I tried my best to address this. So today, more than ever before, we are so far removed from the reality of life and death. Our lives have become an amusement park looking for the next thrill or ride. We have an overwhelming majority of people around us who say, why contemplate death? Why think about it? There's no point. It's a waste of your time. And interestingly enough, though, they don't dismiss that they're going to die, or even now we have those who are setting the stage for the Antichrist. And what I mean by that is we have those who think they can overcome death with their own intellect, with science, by their own power of reasoning and deduction. They have no fear of God and say, do everything you can, get everything you can out of life. So that's always their thing. Hey, just live it to the fullest, that's all that matters, because once it's done, it's done. Eating, drinking, love, gain power and glory, make lots of money. All these things that make you happy, after all, this makes us a successful person. However, the true Christian knows all of this is nothing more than an inflated ego living from day to day, moving on to the next pleasure, and the minute something tries to bring us down, we just turn and run from it and get rid of it. But the reality is death is very subtle, and it comes at the moment when we least expect it. And in this case, death is the pin that pops this overinflated ego. And everything you thought you knew will come crashing down, and we will have to deal with ourselves. Again, that's the judgment on some level, as ourselves. So the bottom line is death is not as many imagine it, and the reality is we will see and experience many things that we are not accustomed to. This is what brings us to today in the fourth week of Great Lent, is the contemplation of what is happening to the soul and body when we experience death. It's not just about making morally good decisions. Being a good person will not save us in and of itself. Jesus Christ saves. The icon of the Ladder of Divine Ascent, written by St. John Climacus, initially for monastics, has now become one of the most important works used by the Church to guide the faithful to have a God-centered life. And some even say this writing is second only to the Holy Scriptures. The holy icon shows men climbing a ladder with Christ at the top, fully receiving them. We also see, though, the frightful reality on the ladder with angels encouraging the souls upward, and then we see disfigured angels, dark, no longer full of light, firing arrows and pulling men down or completely off the ladder altogether. And there's much theology and symbology we could get into about this topic. Rather, for today, the main point is that we will experience eternity. The question becomes then, how will we experience eternity? Modern society cannot explain this reality, but it doesn't stop them from trying it with quote-unquote science. But they have only caused more confusion, and this is not by chance. Everything has a purpose, an underlying issue, a spiritual matter. They try to make death sound like this beautiful experience, which is very different from the traditional and original Christian accounts. Interestingly enough, is that modern man sees a light before crossing the mysterious boundary that separates these two worlds. Again, this is a stark difference to what the Holy Church Fathers teach, as we find in many Orthodox accounts on life after death, as there are many accounts that are opposite of today's accounts from people and other Christian groups. Rather, the appearance of demons to the dying was more prevalent, and it was understood that the soul would go through a series of trials when ascending. The demons usually begin to intimidate the soul, so they actually rush towards the soul to intimidate it after death, only though after the guardian angel has come to escort the soul before the throne of God. Remember, from the time of your baptism, you have a guardian angel yoked to you. And I won't pretend, again, that I understand all of this, but can only give you very simple outline. While in the presence of the guardian angel, the demons are obligated to appear in their actual form. This is why the kiss of peace is very interesting for us Orthodox Christians when we greet each other, and all the more reason why we should cross ourselves, as the demons can take no part in this Christian action of piety on the other side whatsoever. So if you were to greet even what looks like an angel full of light, and you went to give them the kiss of peace, or you crossed yourself before doing it, their real identity would be shown. Now, why am I bringing up the importance of experiencing the light before or after death? And it can get very complicated, and again, I'll try to explain this as best I can. For example, on Mount Tabor, that we all know, the apostles saw the spiritual light, capital L, Christ, right? Although still in the physical world. In these experiences, while still alive, God in his mercy reveals this marvelous light, again, capital L, to encourage us towards the right way of life, ultimately toward him. While in this plane of reality, though, this causes two reactions, that we can barely handle being in the presence of such spiritual light, that such pure peace and joy overwhelms us and we fall on our faces. On the contrary, the devil's light, and remember the scriptures teach us, he will come as an angel of light, but that his light brings with it, as it was described in my research, as a revolting disquiet, and disquiet meaning a lack of peace, an uneasiness, no tranquility, ultimately anxiety, and this is why anxiety in our life is so destructive. It is 100% from the devil, and we allow it in our lives. We allow it in our lives, and it literally destroys us spiritually, which inevitably takes a toll on us physically and mentally. Or this type of light can also, as they describe, can fill us with ignorance and also arrogance and feelings of superiority over others, with the promise of I know what's best for everyone. Ultimately, what is taught is this light is a cold light. I'll say that again. The devil's light is a cold light. And Father Seraphim Rose, of blessed memory, says the following, and part of this quote is also directed towards those who use science to explain what happens to people when they die and come back. And he says, the spiritual sphere closest to us is filled with demons. Consciously, evil begins. And I love that, because this is where we really begin to face evil, is the soul separating from the body. And these evil ones who are specialists in the realm of deception, they gladly partake in any experiments and give the experiments their own spin, ultimately at the end of the day. So it comes down, what is science and what is kind of the occult being mixed into these things as well. The Orthodox understanding is that we, the faithful, should also look to the lives of the saints, the Orthodox spiritual literature, and obviously the Holy Scriptures. And we'll begin to end this talk in one of the most straightforward ways I could find in helping to understand the soul separating from the body. Because in a sober Christian thought exists teachings about the guardian angels taking the soul after death and accompanying it to heaven to worship before God. And frequently, as the soul is ascending to heaven, demons, upon seeing the soul, surround it, intent on scaring it and carrying it away. This is because, according to Holy Scripture, after their expulsion from heaven, the fallen angels took over the area, if it can be called that. And I love that, because we still don't really know. We're just trying to explain it within our limited rational thinking, between heaven and earth. This is why, though, and this is backed by Holy Scripture, this is why the Holy Apostle Paul calls Satan the prince of the power of the air, and his demons spirits of wickedness in heavenly places. That is to say, in the sky or heavens. And you can read this in Ephesians chapter 6. These wandering spirits of heaven, upon seeing a soul led by an angel, approach it from all sides, reproaching it for sins committed throughout its life. They attempt to frighten the soul, bring it to despair, and thus take hold of it. During this trial, the guardian angel bolsters the soul and defends it. This is not cause to think that the demons, though, so this is important, because this boils down to free will. This is not cause to think that the demons have some power over the soul, because they are subject to God's judgment. They are spurred on and in their arrogance by the fact that the soul, in its time on earth, was submissive to them in certain things. So following the passions that lead us downward. So they just assume you act like us, you must be one of us. Their logic is simple. And I jumped the gun here. Since you behaved as one of us as we do, then your place is with us. It's that simple. In closing, church literature consistently teaches these meetings with demons are called trials. While reading their accounts, keep in mind that much is described figuratively. So we have to remember that. Much of that is described as figuratively because the arrangements of the spiritual world do not exactly resemble ours. While yes, we can understand our current place in reality, so this vertical plane of reality, or horizontal plane of reality, as a shadow of things to come, we will never fully be able to realize the age to come until we are fully living in it. We would only minimize this reality using fallen minds and limited expressions. So what does all of this mean for us today? Simply stated, always be on guard. Be spiritually sober. We have beautiful icons in writings such as the Ladder of Divine Ascent to remind us of the very real spiritual struggle. And God in his mercy, just as he did in the Old Testament gave prophets, he also now gives us holy men and women who are deified, and so the saints, and have given us all the tools that we need to be successful when we are returned to the dust of the earth, because that's where we're heading, from the womb to the tomb. That's our faith right now. Then the real battle begins, and in those final moments, when the soul is separating from the body, but if we do not do the work, as a Christian, as Christ commanded us, as we heard him say to the apostles today, this can only be driven out by prayer and fasting. So only by doing the work of a Christian we can do this. Then the real battle begins again in those final moments. But if we do not do this work, we will face this reality unprepared. And that's what Great Lent offers us, is the opportunity to prepare for these trials from the demons when we go to meet Christ. Do not overcomplicate things. Remember, this age is transitory and coming to an end, but the soul will live in eternity. Again, the question becomes, how will that soul be ready to spend eternity? That contemplation alone should drive us closer to our Mother Church, to be embraced by her, to be strengthened by her, as a good mother prepares her children for life. So too the Church is always preparing her children to meet eternity. She, in her wisdom and holiness, prepares us to meet the resurrected and glorified Jesus Christ. And the joy of our souls and the source of our blessings from the ages to ages are from Christ. Through the prayers of Holy Fathers and Mothers, Lord Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy.